LittleBigPlanet was developed by British company Media Molecule. It was designed by Mark Healy and David Smith, former Lionhead studio members, and was partially inspired by previous Lionhead game Ragdoll Kung Fu. The team created a playable prototype named Craftworld and presented it to Sony, who eagerly funded the game in exchange for exclusivity and displayed it at the 2007 Game Developers Conference, less than 1 year into development. The first LittleBigPlanet was released on October 27, 2008. Media Molecule released a sequel in January of 2011 before handing creative rights over to Sumo Digital to develop a third installment. There are additional handheld adaptations and a racing game, but we're only focusing on the main 3 entries today. All 3 games received impeccable scores, with LittleBigPlanet 1 receiving near-perfect ratings, and a Game of the Year edition in September of 2009. By 2010, the game had sold over 4.5 million copies, and at this point in time, there are over 9.9 million user-created levels, playable across the first 2 entries of the series. With numbers like that, it begs the question, what's so great about it? Media Molecule was so focused on their new concept that the story seems to have gotten a pass by, at least in the first installment. Players take on the avatars of sack people on LittleBigPlanet, the accumulation of all dreams, ideas, and any sort of imagination. The premise is simple enough. However, your character doesn't really have a story for themselves. There's no narration for them to follow. You are instead passed between the 7 creator curators, the 7 leaders of each domain within LittleBigPlanet. Each of them, aside from the first and the last, have some task for you to take care of for them. Then you're on your way to the next level. But honestly, the lack of a story revolving around your sack person is so well blended with the rest of the game that it doesn't feel like it's necessary. The only point it's really noticeable is at the end of the game, but obviously we can't discuss that here due to spoilers. Instead, let's talk about the story of the next 2 games. This is where everything picked up. Now that they had their formula in place, Media Molecule went deeper. Craftworld is under attack by the Negativatron, who is stealing all of the imagination in the universe, and it's up to Sackperson and his allies to save the day. LittleBigPlanet 2 has proper voice acting during cutscenes, and the outcome of the story's events fully rely on the player's progression through the story. Curators feel like fleshed out characters rather than animatronic bobbleheads, and they even interact with each other. The levels and worlds reflect the curators, rather than them being placeholders within their environments. The story of LittleBigPlanet 2 starts and ends concisely, with no confusion of your role along the way. LittleBigPlanet 3 took things in a different direction. Once again, Sackperson is the silent hero who happens to drop in time to save the day, protecting Craftworld from the 3 titans who have occupied the body of an inventor named Newton. Sure, there's mild spoilers of Newton's storylines, but it's just a prologue. And I mean, come on. The very first shot of the guy is of his lair. Now, the cutscenes were fully animated and the voice acting carried over into regular gameplay. However, the curators were ditched, and in their place came these guiding characters who told you where to go next. They have very little to do with the story themselves, but at least there's more interaction than there was in LittleBigPlanet 1. While they don't feel as if they have a missing piece, the first and third entries simply don't compare in story quality to the enjoyment of LittleBigPlanet 2. Playing LittleBigPlanet is intuitive and enjoyable no matter your gaming experience. Players of all ages and skill levels can quickly grasp the mechanics which boil down to run, jump, and grab. Everything else in the game is based on any combination of those mechanics. Running from bosses, jumping on buttons, grabbing switches and levers. The new age 2.5 dimensional platforming is straightforward, so you're never confused of where to go next. Multiplayer levels give extra challenges to complete with your friends, and some levels even change into a new Game Plus style by activating sticker switches that weren't accessible the first time through a level. Several story levels contain keys, which unlock bonus puzzle and racing levels. LittleBigPlanet 2 capitalized on this idea by including classic racing and puzzle levels with new twists and mechanics, and also competitive levels for a challenge between players. The first 2 installments are very linear in gameplay. However, Sumo Digital tried something a little different in LittleBigPlanet 3. The third game is laid out in an open world style, which may seem confusing given the fact that this is a series of side-scrolling platformers. The way the open world feeling is achieved is by tethering or linking levels together to a sort of hub world. Using the abilities of different characters, also a new feature of LittleBigPlanet 3, players are able to freely explore the hub worlds and choose which story levels to do first, and which optional levels to do at all. While this gives the player choice over their path, it also substantially cuts down on game time, even to the point that it only took us 2.5 hours to complete the main storyline without optional levels. Now this could be a positive or a negative to an individual, based on how long you plan to spend playing each installment of the series. Each LittleBigPlanet entry capitalizes on the gameplay mechanics laid down by its predecessor. The first game established a magical world where physical feats had to be accomplished by following actual laws of physics to effectively make use of speed and motion. LittleBigPlanet 2 tightened up controls and even capitalized on swinging with the grappling hook, and a few other contraptions focused on pulling, pushing, and throwing. The third installment added new tools to Sackboy's arsenal that allowed him to easier explore the newly open world around him. Each array of tools available perfectly reflects the environment of each game, and the different styles of gameplay that the developers wanted between each installment. LittleBigPlanet is constructed around 3 central ideas: play, create, and share. You can start by playing the story mode of the game to learn the mechanics and collect items, with which you can begin to create your own dream worlds. Using the majority of assets that were actually used to create the story levels, you can invent your own levels to then share with players around the world. As we mentioned earlier, there are 9.9 million levels across the first 2 entries. Levels created in each game carry over to their successor, with LittleBigPlanet 3 being able to play all user-created levels from LittleBigPlanet 1 and 2, as well as its own undisclosed amount of fresh, user-generated content. Levels aren't the only thing that transfer over though. All costumes, collectibles, and downloadable content from any entry also carry over, even from PS3 to PS4, so you never have to start over. Your collection comes with you. Due to its unique style of depth and gameplay, the world of LittleBigPlanet greatly opens up for anyone with a nose for hidden entrances. Many areas of the game are tucked away in corners and hidden behind tricky walls, but by using the environment, you are able to capitalize on these hidden areas and secret goodies. Due to the fact that the only collectibles to be had are stickers and materials for level building, players can approach the games either as collectathons or simply as fun platformers, to get to the end as quickly or creatively as possible, if they have no interest in creating levels of their own. The story modes of the first 2 games are easily replayable in entirety, allowing you to experience it with different players anytime you feel like diving back into the world. In fact, after completing it once, you can choose any of your favorite levels to hop back into immediately. Unfortunately, Sumo Digital took out the easy replayability of story mode in LittleBigPlanet 3, and forces players to wipe their saves if they want to experience a story more than once. In their defense, this is due to the fact that certain mechanics of the game are only available to the player after completing each world, allowing you to come back and make new discoveries. The openness and many choices of playstyle available to you allow you to play, create, and share with anyone and everyone, or even keep all of your imagination to yourself, should you choose. The themes of creativity and imagination that propel these games are solidified by the aesthetics. Sackboy went through many transformations before he became the plushy mascot we know and love. Every level and world within the adventures of the LittleBigPlanet series have unique and independent qualities, yet still have a feeling of being connected in an overall story. The use of cutscenes in LittleBigPlanet 2 tied the world together, allowing the player to feel the grandiose of the whole world being fully connected. With each installment in the series, the mechanics going on behind the scenes became more hidden, adding to a feeling of wonder through illusions. During development, all materials were available for grabbing, but later on only soft materials could be gripped. The obvious look of each material in the worlds of LittleBigPlanet look identical to their real-life counterparts, allowing players to know what materials are and how they might behave based on actual knowledge. Music and audio also became a bigger focus with each game, with the second and certainly the third LittleBigPlanet including several popular songs and all-star cast members to contribute voices. The soundtrack of each game can be manipulated based on proximity to certain items and locations within each level, allowing a greater amount of variety and dynamics to come from a single song. The variety of visuals and sounds are not limited to the official story levels. Players are able to do the same with their own levels, designing them in any genre or style they want. It's easy to tell the developers put so much love and care into creating the world of imagination and making it feel as you'd, well, imagine. LittleBigPlanet is one of the few great remaining experiences of couch co-op gaming. Every level is fully enjoyable in either a cooperative or a competitive manner. Some of the most fun to be had in LittleBigPlanet is getting your friends killed in the story or online. In a market that is exponentially moving to exclusively online gaming, it's hard to find games to play with friends and family without multiple copies and consoles. It is also a great instance of modern-day platforming, which, outside of Nintendo exclusives, is no longer a common genre. We don't usually analyze downloadable content here, but since a good amount of it is accessible for free through the special editions of the first two installments, we will take note that for its price, the DLC in LittleBigPlanet is worth it. Aside from the dozens and dozens of costumes and sticker packs, there are themed level packs that each add a whole creator's worth of levels, each with their own set of collectibles to carry with you on your adventure. In fact, one of the packs, themed after Pirates of the Caribbean, provided players with the entirely new feature of water, which provided all sorts of new gameplay and user-created content. Speaking of user-created content, we mentioned in the introduction that at the time of recording, there were 9.9 million user-created levels to be played across the first two installments. These levels are also playable on LittleBigPlanet 3, which has its own online levels. However, these did not translate backwards to the first two games due to the added depth. Even though popularity of the series has declined over the years, some dedicated fans still create new levels and are publicly available to join. As long as the servers keep running, there will never be a shortage of content in any of the three games. With such a simple storyline, lighthearted visuals, and upbeat gameplay, this creative trilogy may seem like it belongs only to children and family-oriented gamers. But that's not necessarily true. LittleBigPlanet is for creative types. Not just level builders and creators, but anyone who enjoys a change of scene. The 2.5D platforming is a fresh change of pace in the gaming market where platforming has faded outside of Super Mario games. That being said, there are in fact other platformers out there, so it's time we ask the question, what's so great about LittleBigPlanet? Craft World feels like the hidden place in your brain where every dream and idea you ever had goes to tuck itself away until it's needed. Now, you're finally able to explore that place. Simplistic gameplay and intuitive controls allow players of all types to experience many different worlds without aggravating mechanics. Players can romp through African deserts, abandoned factories, and 50s diners without a care in the world. And should they choose, players can then access the hidden part of their brains and create new worlds to share with their friends. That is what's so great about LittleBigPlanet. Thank you all for watching this episode of What's So Great About Gaming, as we ran, jumped, and swung through Craft World. If you have a favorite series or single game that you think is great, leave a comment about your choice and we'll look into it. We did speed through some parts of the series to cover as many topics as possible, so if you feel there is something about one of the LittleBigPlanet games that didn't get enough attention, let us know. If it's important enough, we may go into more detail in a future video. Thanks again for watching. Now go play a great game. We'll see you next time.